The flight from Chicago to New York was supposed to be routine, just another 3-hour hop. But as the plane hit rough air, the seatbelt sign flickered on, and the captain's voice came over the intercom, steady but sharp. Seat 12. F. Identify yourself. The call sign Echo 7 turned the cabin silent. No one moved. It was a name only a few should know. You see, in seat 12 degrees Fahrenheit sat Elias, mid-30s, ordinary, blending in. Jeans, gray hoodie, hair messy. His fingers tapped the armrest, hand brushing the small silver compass in his pocket, a gift from his old instructor from when he dreamed of flying. "Captain, this is Echo 7, Elias said quietly, as passengers stared. The woman next to him clutched her knitting tightly. "What's going on, dear?" she whispered softly. Elias didn't answer right away. His mind drifted back to those intense long nights in the simulator with Captain Reyes, the mentor who had pushed him to his limits with endless drills. "The sky tests everyone, Elias," Reyes had said one stormy evening as rain lashed against the windows outside. "But when the moment comes, you'll know the call because you've lived it. Remember, the compass points true only if you trust the unseen winds." That prophetic line had stayed with him through every training run and close call in his career. The plane was a Boeing 737, packed shoulder to shoulder with families heading home for the holidays, business folks glued to their laptops typing away furiously, a few kids giggling in the back rows over a shared tablet game, one irrelevant detail sticking out, a bright yellow balloon tied to a seat in row 15 that bobbed gently with emotion. The air smelled of stale coffee from the service carts and that ever-present recycled oxygen, the hum of the engines a constant undercurrent vibrating through the floor. Outside the small windows, dark clouds gathered ominously on the horizon, and Elias felt that old familiar knot twisting in his stomach, a physical reminder of stakes long buried. He'd left this life behind after a mission gone sideways in unforgiving weather, one that cost him his wings and nearly his sanity in the aftermath inquiries. But here he was, called out by name in a way that meant everything was on the line again. "Stay with me here, because what happened next wasn't just about one man on a plane. It was about the choice we all face when no one else sees the storm coming." The first crack came subtle at first, a slight vibration in the controls that only trained ears would catch, reported quietly by the flight attendant who passed by with a forced smile. "Everything okay up front?" she asked near the cockpit door. No immediate response. Then the second stage hit, altimeter readings starting to flicker on the pilot's instruments, though most passengers wouldn't know that yet. Elias did, from his years of monitoring similar feeds. "Captain, we have a situation." The co-pilot's voice came over, clipped and urgent. Panic began to ripple through the cabin as the plane dipped unexpectedly, gasps filling the air. A man across the aisle scoffed. "This guy's probably some conspiracy nut. Sit down and shut up." Others nodded, eyes wary. "Sir, please remain seated," the flight attendant urged. But Elias stood slowly, his hands shaking just a bit as he gripped the seat back. "Listen," he said, voice steady despite the tremor. "That call sign means the transponder's been compromised. I trained for this exact protocol. To prove it, he described the exact emergency frequency and the backup navigation sequence only someone with classified hours would recall. The captain, after a tense pause, confirmed it matched. Resistance crumbled in layers. First doubt, then reluctant checks, finally grim acceptance as systems began failing one by one. In that moment, the silver compass slipped from his pocket as he moved forward, catching the light. It wasn't just a trinket anymore. It was the reminder of every decision that led him here. Now came the real test, where seconds felt endless. Time stretched like the long horizon ahead. Elias entered the cockpit area, heart pounding but steps sure. The pilot sat sweating profusely, his hands gripping the yoke so tightly the veins stood out, and he looked up with desperate eyes. "You know what to do here?" The instruments were glitching badly, screens showing conflicting data, and flashing alerts that filled the small space with urgent beeps. Elias slid into the secondary seat, his breath coming in deep measured pulls to keep calm, fingers finding the controls like old friends. Set throttle to 70%. He instructed slowly and methodically, making small but precise adjustments, feeling the subtle responsive shifts in engine power vibrating through the floor and up into his seat. The plane shuddered hard as turbulence intensified, the whole fuselage vibrating, making everyone in back tense up. He worked step by step, eyes scanning, recalibrating the heading by spotting landmarks like a winding river and a cluster of lights below through cloud gaps, cross-referencing constantly with the silver compass clipped to the panel for true north. Adjustments came 1 degree at a time, his voice steady, hands shaking less as old training kicked in fully. Then a bigger crisis hit as hydraulics lagged, the plane stubbornly pulling to the left, requiring constant counter-pressure that strained their arms and focus. Elias's hands shook more intensely, sweat dripping into his eyes, but his voice stayed calm and reassuring. "Easy now, we've got this. Trust the feel of the controls," he said. Unexpectedly, he placed a hand on the pilot's shoulder for a moment of support. The final approach built tension with every foot of descent. Flaps were lowered gradually and carefully, altitude bleeding off through the clouds, until the runway lights appeared like beacons. "The sky doesn't forget those who listen to it," he whispered, the prophetic words echoing as the wheels made contact with a heavy but controlled jolt. It was imperfect, with some passengers nursing bruises and bags everywhere, but they were safely on the ground. Back in the terminal, as bodies finally released their held breath in collective sighs, the first to speak was the older lady from seat 12E. "Young man, how did you know all that?" She trailed off, her eyes wide with awe. The skeptic from across the aisle came over, his face pale and shaken. "I was wrong about you. That was impossible to believe." Official response came quick with debriefs in a side room, hushed thanks from the airline representative, and respectful nods all around. Later that evening, in a quiet hangar bay, Captain Reyes appeared, specially flown in. They clasped hands warmly. The silver compass passed between them once more, now carrying the weight of redemption earned high in the air. Weeks later, Elias sat in a small park near his apartment, the world feeling ordinary again with cars humming by and kids playing soccer on the grass. But deep down, something fundamental had shifted in him forever. He met Reyes on a weathered bench under the trees. Was it worth it? All those years of doubt and training? Elias asked quietly, the compass resting in his open hand. Reyes smiled faintly, eyes distant. "Kid, the compass never pointed just to safety. It always pointed to who you could become when everything was on the line and it mattered most. What would you have done if the call came for you? Step up with a past you'd buried or stay silent in your seat? There's no single right answer, just the weight of the moment." If this story moved you, please hit subscribe for more emotional stories like this one, and share it with a friend who might need to remember their own hidden strength buried deep inside. We tell these tales to light the way. And in the end, one man with compass in pocket walks into the sunset, sky whispering his name.